this makes me think, I can't help wondering, if Princess Diana had been around in this sort of social media age, how she would have coped.
That's extraordinary, and I honestly was thinking the exact same thing when I watched that clip, because I was thinking back then, she would have obviously got, if she was on social media, she would have got the positive and I'm sure the negative. And again, how would she have coped? How does anyone cope? You know, millions of people sadly get this online bullying. I mean, as you know, I do a lot on social media and sometimes I get attacked. So it happens all the time. But I also agree with what you said, Anne. It's interesting that she was reading and engaging, because I think a lot of members of the royal family do not go on social media for that very reason. So they don't see all these kind of negative comments, because there is positive, but there's always negative.
Can I ask you, Grant, it's interesting, it came out that most abuse not only happened while she was pregnant, but most abuse was from other women, which I thought was quite telling on International Women's Day. But do you think this permanently taking the position of woe betide me, I'm the victim, my life is so difficult, is the best strategy if she's looking to get a new PR guru to help her get more public sympathy? Do people really want this pearl-clutching, permanently offended person in their lives, or do they rather want a strong, independent princess who rises above it?
I think this is the thing, isn't it? You know, the public, this is just my feeling from what I can see, is I don't think people really like it. I think, you know, whether, as you said, people like or hate her, you know, that everyone's got their own opinion, which is fantastic. But, you know, sometimes you think maybe you should be rising above it. And can I say, if you look at Catherine, the Princess of Wales, I think we all agree that, once again, she never kind of puts her foot wrong. It doesn't mean to say that she's not on social media. I honestly don't know. She could be on social media. But again, she doesn't she doesn't kind of comment about it. She doesn't kind of talk about it. And I think this is the thing, you know, that again, this is why I think the late Queen and the King don't engage in this kind of thing, because they don't want to get involved in it. And that's probably not a bad thing to do. But also, obviously, they're no longer working members of the royal family, but they are young royals, and social media is a big part of going forward. And I noticed that the royal family, they do use social media a lot to promote what goes on behind the scenes, which is fantastic. It gives people an insight into a world that only people like myself ever got to really see at one time.
Yes, it bites you back, doesn't it? It's interesting that actually even Kensington Palace, I think, the staff there have been so upset by some of the terrible things that have been said, for instance, about Princess Catherine and about what may be ailing her, that they actually put out a statement saying, enough, can you just stop it? Stop all this speculation. So even if Princess Catherine herself isn't reading it, her staff are, and it's clearly getting to them.
And her friends, you know, her parents, her sister, her brother, because her brother obviously does social media, you know, they'll be aware of it. And I'm sure they're kind of saying to her, unhappy about it. And do you know, whatever's going on, you know, the last thing she needs to be thinking about is what's going on social media. And do you know, the other thing is, Anne, I remember when I worked with them, she was always very, and William, they love their privacy, quite rightly, and it's something that they've tried to hold on to as long as they can. But now, obviously, they are the Prince and Princess of Wales. We are interested. The public want to know, and I don't think it's so much want to know. Well, I suppose they do want to know a lot what goes on behind the scenes, but I think they just want to make sure that she's okay. And I think there's a very fine line between giving us that information and kind of going too far that it can invade in their privacy. I think that's the problem.
Don't you think, Grant, a better role model would be one who said, just delete all your apps. Just don't look at social media. Don't feed the troll. Just rise above this and be a bigger person.
Absolutely. Just take time. I think most social media apps now let you take time out. So if it really is that upsetting, which I've done it, a few other people have done it, it's sometimes a good idea. It's also healthy. Sometimes just take a little break from it and actually just get back into the real world. But as social media is developing and all this other technology, I think it's going to become more and more tricky to do that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it just illustrates, though, doesn't it, the sort of very difficult role that Harry and Meghan have forged for themselves. Yeah. If you're Princess Catherine, if you're the king, you don't need social media to be who you are. You have that status already. But Harry and Meghan have to make their own living now, and their social media profile is money to them, isn't it? So they have to engage
absolutely.
with it, I suppose.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the call, you know, I think the thing about social media is it does raise your profile. It does put you out there. There's no question about it. And as you said, if you're a senior member of the royal family, you don't need that. But if you are doing what they're doing, you know, celebrity roles, as I call them, they have to kind of keep themselves relevant. They have to, I suppose, be kind of seen. And one of the ways of doing that is because social media has got an extraordinary reach. And, you know, it's a great way to kind of get things out there. But again, it can come back on you. It can go badly as well if you if you do read a lot of these comments, which we all do. It can obviously affect you. I have no doubt it can affect your mental health as well. Reading negative comments, and it can be a horrible world. It can be a horrible world. Social media.
Are you on it?
I am.
So you're aware of the good and bad of it.
100%. I mean, sometimes I put posts up and it's extraordinary and they're seen by millions. I mean, one of my posts I think was about 10 million recently, and the comments were terrifying. But what was interesting, Anne Martin, was the comment. It was actually about the King's health. It was when you obviously announced the cancer diagnosis, and I just put a support. Obviously, just as a former Butler, just saying I wished him the best and supported him. The comments were extraordinary. There was tens of thousands of comments, and the things that people were saying was unbelievable, and there was fighting going on it. I've just walked away from it. I'm not even looking at it. And again, this is why I think it can go badly wrong, because if that was a post, say, about myself or a family member, and people were getting involved, which has happened in the past, they can be quite nasty. I think the thing about social media is the people that comment, they can almost hide behind this kind of invisible curtain. They can say what they want, and they're not really, they can have an invisible profile, can't they? So this is the problem. This is where it can be, and it can be upsetting. So I think is what I do is I post, and then sometimes I read the comments, but other times if it gets a little bit negative, I think not going to go there. And I think that's the best way to deal with it.
Okay.